Well, Y2PC, what about you? Cass here. I haven't made the video in quite a while, and there's been a good reason for that. Um, I'm sure many of you have heard through the grapevine I haven't been in the best of health throughout November, December. Um, so, I don't know. I was debating whether or not I should make a video and go into detail. Uh, you know, or maybe just continue as if nothing had happened, or even mention it but don't go into any detail, or go into detail. But I think it might be cathartic, and I'm sure you're intrigued or interested. And if you're not, you don't have to watch this video. So, in mid-November, the 17th, I think, I woke up with real bad pain in my in my abdomen, and I didn't know what it was, and then got really bad, like really bad. I go to the doctor generally. If there's something I feel is wrong, I'll go. I'm not one of those people that, we'll see if it goes away. And I'm really glad I'm not one of those people because I probably wouldn't be here if I was. So, long story short, I had a perforated bowel, but I didn't know, obviously, at that stage. I drove myself somehow to the doctor, and then he tried to get an ambulance because he thought it was urinary retention, and he didn't have a catheter, so he wanted to get me to the hospital to get a catheter in. Um, so no ambulance for 2 hours, so I had to phone my dad, who luckily was available, and he came and drove me to the Ulster Hospital, which is very good. I'm glad I didn't go to the local hospital here in Lisburn. So when I got there, they shoved a catheter in my doodah, in my penis, and it did not relieve any pain at all. So that was disappointing. So then they thought maybe it would be appendicitis. I've got a burst appendix, and that seemed plausible to me as well because the pain was outstanding, like worse than anything I've ever experienced. And I've done some stupid things and broken bones in stupid places, and yeah. So anyway, the dog is doing something silly down there. Yeah. So they put. Long story short, sorry, I'll ramble on here. I'm sorry. They didn't know until they opened me up, and then they saw it was a perforated bowel. So even after the scans, they thought, oh, maybe it is a burst appendix. But then they opened me up, and it was a fucking mess, apparently, like a complete mess. But the operation was successful, and it was successful, yeah, the operation. I woke up with a stoma, ostomy, a colostomy bag, and I wasn't expecting that because I thought I had appendicitis. But with the right nurses and the right support in place, they made sure that I was comfortable with dealing with having a stoma and dealing with that change in lifestyle and how to change the bags and all sorts of shit. All sorts of shit, literally. Um, yeah, so far so good. So apparently it's reversible in 6 months or so. They will reverse it, possibly, and possibly not. Who knows? We'll see. I have a meeting with the surgeon on the 1st of February. He will put his index finger up my bum and see if my sphincter and colon are still functioning strongly enough. I believe they will be. And then he'll scan and make sure that the bowel lower section has been healed properly. So I had a portion of my lower intestine removed, quite a large portion. I'm quite lucky though, because some people get what's called ileostomy, and that means it's a removal of basically everything down until the small intestine. So you keep your small intestine and all the large intestine, and even sometimes the colon is removed completely. And that means they have to be very, very careful about things that they eat in case of blockages because they're not being digested properly or fully, sorry. So I'm lucky. I don't really have to be too careful. There are certain things I should avoid, but I can still eat them as long as I chew properly. Um, so I was in hospital, and that was a Wednesday, and they said, "Oh, you'll be out by Monday." Unfortunately, that wasn't to be. Um, Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. With perforated bowel, they say it's more risky than heart surgery because of all the complications, especially if there's stool all over your abdomen in amongst your organs. And that's what was happening with me. That's what happened with me. So I got 2 abscess. I got an infection of the wound itself, the surgical scar. Um, so those abscess had to be drained, and that was like another mini operation. Um, they actually gave me some fentanyl for that. There was one abscess that was next to my liver, and they had to go in my back through in between 2 ribs, as far as I know, and it was horrible. So they gave me 0.0 milligrams, whatever it was. It was very low dose. No wonder all those kids in America are overdosing on what they think is heroin, but is actually fentanyl. It's very easy. Yeah. Um. So yeah, that happened. Also, it, even though I had those infections and the abscesses, and I had drains, like 3 drains at one point, disgusting. Um, I was fairly confident, but then um, something happened which isn't very nice, and that's the bowel stopped working. Because the organs don't like to be handled in the human body, and sometimes when they're handled vigorously and you put them back in, they might work for a few days and then they might just stop because they can't be arsed. They're like, well, you just shoved me back in here and you expect me to function. So that happened. And whenever that happens, the only thing they can do really is not give you any water and not give you any food for 2 or 3 days and see if it restarts. It's like hitting reset on the bottle. So that's called nil by mouth. And in order to do that, well, first of all, you have to be showing signs of your bowel not working, and that's obviously no output in your stoma, and then you're throwing up bile, because bile's being produced, and there's nowhere for it to go except up your stomach and up to your throat, and then you start throwing up. And it's amazing, your body just does not quit producing bile for whatever reason. So you're throwing up. I believe I threw up like maybe a 2.5 liters of bile the first time it happened. It was grotesque. And then so they have to put a tube down in your nose and into your stomach. That's it, to drain the bile so that you don't have to be sick all the time. So then they put you on a drip and you're not allowed any food or water. And so this happened to me twice in a row. The first time it happened, they thought I was going to be able to eat, and they took out the tube, fed me, and the same thing happened. I threw up the food, and then I threw up bile, and they came back with the bad news that we have to do this again. So for nearly 7 days, I didn't eat or drink, apart from the meal on the 3rd day, which I threw up. So I lost a lot of weight. I looked like a walking skeleton at the end of that 7 days, and I felt like one too. I also couldn't sleep because of everything, because of the drains, because of the tube down my throat, and because of I think I was traumatized, to be honest. Looking back, I thought maybe it was just adrenaline, but no. The first week I was kind of positive about it, and then that second week, after all that was happening, and then I didn't sleep for. Did I already say that? Sorry, I didn't sleep for 6-7 days, and that started to really have a. And then because I'd lost all the weight, I thought, oh dear. And then to top it all off, I sat up one morning to go for a pee, because at this stage the catheter was out. And when I sat up, my staples burst, a little, and about half a pint of pus came out of my surgical scar. So it was now infected as well. Um, so what they had to do then was cut the wound open again, so you could see my fascia, which is a layer on top of the organs. So it was only half of the wound, about 4 centimeters, that they cut, and drained all the pus out of it and sucked it up with a machine, and then basically stuffed the wound. It's still open, but it's only about 1.5 centimeters wide or long now, and it's gradually closing. Nurses come every day, every other day now, sorry, but they did come every day for the first 2 weeks when I got home. So yeah, that's about it, I guess. Eventually, they thought it was good enough to go home, obviously, but it was 21 days. And obviously, like I say, it was touch and go. Obviously, I have a stoma now. That's a pain in the arse for me personally. I mean, it doesn't really bother me too much. Like, I know a lot of people, I've been speaking to people online who have been through this and they are not coping well. Some of them. And I am, comparatively. So I shouldn't complain. And it is maybe going to be reversed, although that's a whole nother major operation and it has its own risks. You could get another leak. So it's pretty scary. So yeah, there are going to be people out there who are watching this and are like, what the fuck is Cass doing? Going into so much detail. Nobody needs to know this. And maybe you're right. I know even some of my friends will think that, and maybe they're right, but I think it's cathartic for me just to tell everyone. I'm an open book anyway, usually, I think. I don't really. Well, of course, we all have our secrets, like, some that you don't tell people, but apart from those, yeah, I'm fairly open. And I just thought it would be cathartic, like I say, for me to talk about it. And I'm sure many of you have been through similar experiences, or, I never had a major operation. So that was an emergency major operation. That was pretty new for me. And yeah, you got to look after your bodies when you're young, and this shit doesn't happen when you're older, isn't that right? But I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be back. There are a couple of pipes that I've received. One my wife organised with Uncle Phil and Mark, Bremen pipe smoker, managed to talk with Ugas. Is that how you pronounce it? Ugas? From Black Meerschaum. Check out his Instagram and website, Black Meerschaum. Just Google Black Meerschaum. Fantastic pipes. I believe he still has a sale on. It may not be on anymore. I don't know. I know there was 15% off some items. They're superb. The pipe is amazing. It's like a stacked billiard almost, with silver ferrule and a nice black stem. I'll make a video about that very soon. Also, there's a pipe that some of my friends actually got together when I was in hospital, and they organised for Cryss Shaw, my friend and lover, Bubba, to craft a pipe for me. And it couldn't just be any ordinary pipe, it had to have a cock and balls imprinted, carved into the underside. So just a reminder of, yeah. So good friends, very good. I was very surprised that they had done that for me, and it was a very nice, pleasant gift. I've been spoiled, really. My wife was in the hospital 21 days, 21 nights, and it's a pain in the arse to get there. It's like a 45-minute drive if you're lucky, and if you're not lucky, which usually is the case, it's an hour and a half because of the traffic. And she was there every night, and she brought me all sorts of tinctures, concoctions and potions to make me feel better. She even made a broth from bone marrow and garlic, onion, and ginger, all sorts of things. But she's a vegan, and her mother had this recipe for this bone marrow broth, which will revive the dead, if not anything else. And I think it did wonders, to be honest. So, yeah, good to be back. And also, thanks very much. A lot of you sent me messages. A few of you sent me emails. And on Instagram, on YouTube. Thank you very much for reaching out. Yeah, very lucky to be a part of the YTPC and being able to continue it. Lucky boy. That's all I can tell you. So, yeah, don't take shit for granted, folks. And I hope you had a wonderful New Year and Christmas. I know I did. It was great. It was very quiet. It was just 4 of us, my parents and my wife. And my parents were also very good, obviously, bringing me everything I needed in hospital. Just don't want to leave anyone out. But all the guys have been real, the Peace Accord guys, real source of, get talking to them. And Mark Bremen pipe smokers have been a real help. Been talking to him, and yeah, just anyone I missed out, I'm really sorry. I know there's been lots. Thank you very much again. And I hope you're all well. I'll not ramble on any longer. See you soon. See you shortly. There'll be a video about the Meerschaum pipe coming up in the next few days, I think. Toodle pip, folks.